already been here also in this webinar, and also all of the participants that come from more than 9 countries. And I can see this is the diversity of these participations. Okay, so I would like to introduce regarding Research Synergy Foundations, since this webinar is also a part of our programs, and let me share regarding with our presentations. This is regarding with our journey in almost 8 years, 8 years in supporting all of the scholars from all around the world. And this is the introduction regarding of Research Synergy Foundations as a digital social enterprise platform. And we are focusing in how we develop the global research ecosystem. And up to now, we have more than 45,000 scholars that already being our participants in our programs, and also our beneficiaries. And we build also a collaborative network, not just only for the scholars that come from the academicians, but also come from the governments, and also come from many sectoral as like industry, and also from the society. And we have various numbers of work and programs, as like what we already see in this picture. We have various programs, especially for the conference. We have more than 250 conferences that already been held since 2017. And then this is our global research ecosystem actually. And for the first support system that built this ecosystem is ScholarVens. From 2017, we are already conducting more than 204 40 international conference, and it is already happened in some countries, also in 15 countries. And then it can be in hybrid, it can be in on-site, and also virtually. And all of the members that already participate in our programs in this conference is more than 20,000 members. And this is really amazing for us, because the enthusiasm from all of the scholars from all around the world to join in our program, especially our conference. And then for upholding the integrity in our all scientific programs, or I mean like there are many scientific forum as like conference, and also they are publishing in journal and etc., and also webinar and etc. We are also supported by our support system is called Reviewer Track. And this reviewer track is also a hub for our scientific reviewer. And up to now, we have more than 2,000 scientific reviewer, and they are also supporting us in review our manuscript and our articles in our journals, and also in our conference. And then this programs is also supported mainly by our learning platform. It's called Research Synergy Institute. And up to now, we have more than 20,000 participants or beneficiaries that already join in our program, as like this webinar, and then coaching and workshop and etc. And it is already participated by more than 1,000 of university and institutions that come from many countries, and also all the talents and also the trainer and etc. is come from also many countries, and it's also already supported by hundreds of it. And then we are also considering regarding how we made an output of publication by having also Research Synergy Foundation, Research Synergy Press as our publishing house. And up to now, we have 22 peer review indexed international journal that already been indexed in some reputable indexers. And we are also supported many scholars that publish in our journals, and it is already more than 5,000 authors and co-authors that already been published in our journals. And the contributing countries is more than 30 countries. And then this is the last but not the least, our support system that also built this ecosystems. It's called it Global Research Community Platforms. This is one of our platform that we can embracing all of our scholars by having updating information about our programs and also how we can connect each other and as like an extended communication between and among researcher, especially that come from our program as like a conference. Since we know that a conference only having like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then after that they need extended communication or discussion with a session chair or with another participant with the same research field. So we have this kind of platform to extend the communication to having less like research collaborations or extended academic program as like mobility research combination collaboration or whatever regarding with their university requirement. So this support system also affiliate with our reputable publisher as like Tele and Francis. As like what we have already had this program now, it is supported fully by Tele and Francis and F1000 Research, and also we are officially affiliate with Emerald Publisher in 2024. Okay, and this is our programs for the international conference that supported mainly with the scholar friends. And our conference is not just only conference actually. This is regarding with grant networking, and mostly we are trying to connect among or between institutions or individuals or from the senior professor and early career researcher, and they have like a path, or I mean like a researcher path to be whatever they need for their career or their recognition for their institution or for their own self. For example, every conference we are open for call for keynote speakers and also call for session chair and call for reviewer and also call for the attendee alongside with the call for presenters. So we have many collaboration with many universities from all around the world, not just only in Indonesia or ASEAN country, but also in from another countries as like in Philippines, in Australia, and also in Africa, and also in European. And then this is one of the example of our upcoming programs that we are focusing in how we develop the grant networkings as like we have international conference, and then after that we have also international collaboration among or between institution or university and university, because this conference will be held in Tomyong University, Busan, South Korea. And we are open for call for co-hosts to all of you here that already participated in this webinar. We welcome to all of you to become our co-host, and then we will provide MOU, MOA, and then IA signing among or between Tomyong University and your university, and also among the university that become the host and the co-host of our conference, this conference. And then we are also provide international academic sharing sessions with the Tomyong University academics partners. I mean, like they are lecturers, international office, and also university leaders and etc. will join in this session. And then we are also having link and match programs, or it can call it a part of mobility programs by having industrial or company visit. And this company visit is also become one of a strategic visit, since there are many of university or many of lecturer, they are also need kind of how they can share, they can know regarding with the business process, and also sharing the knowledge between theory and practical and etc. So this is also open for all of you to join this kind of company visit and also industrial visit. And we are also having international community service with the small medium enterprise in Busan, South Korea, and we are open to all of you to join in this international community service. And then we have also international impact driven activities, since we know that we have a society also that will be joined in our program. For example, as like the industrial visit will be going into one of the ministry in one of the institution in the Ministry of Trading Ministry in South Korea. So we are open also collaboration with small medium enterprise in your country if they would like to join in this event also. So this is can be promote your product, and then also we can extend it or emerging like export or import program and etc. Between or among countries. Okay. And then this is one of our programs that mainly focusing in how we enhance the quality of applications, and mainly supported by Research Synergy Institute as our global learning platform. And also this webinar is supported mainly with Research Synergy Institute, and we have many of programs. This is one of it, and because we have many of requirement regarding with how to enhance to our quality of publications, and in our career how to be published in some reputable indexed platform as like F1000Research that already indexed in Scopus Q1 and Q2, and also we have many of program regarding with this one. And this is one of our programs to support it all of you, the participant here that would like to publish in F1000Research. We have a mini coaching clinic, and the duration is in 2 weeks. And in this mini clinic or mini coaching clinics, we will assist you because our position, our role here as advisory gateway of the F1000Research Gateway, and we would like to having a lot of strategy and tips regarding how to be published, how to match with the requirement of the editorial, and then we focusing in how to minimize the gap between author capacity and also editorial requirements. So we do hope that with our mini coaching we will have we will minimize that gap, and then we can also support all of you regarding what we have already known regarding in editorial requirements. And then this is our official partners that I already mentioned before. And then this is our gateway in F1000Research. And up to now, we have already published more than 200 articles. And for the art and humanities, it's already indexed in Q1s. And for the social science, it's already indexed in Q2 Scopus. Okay. And then we are also having publishing our own publishing platforms. It's called Research Synergy Press, and we have 22 international journals, and it cover a lot of research interests as like in social science, education, business management, entrepreneurship, and then sustainability, risk management, engineering, and health study. And we will come to all of you also to publish in our journals. And this is our indexing and database of our journals, our 22 journals. It's already indexed in 8 reputable indexer in Copernicus, ASGI, Synta, ProQuest, EBSCO, Dimension, Scilab, and Google Scholars. And also it's already recorded in more than 400 university library, as like in Hollis, Harvard Library catalogs, Stanford University Library, and etc. So this is also one of our achievement regarding in 2 years we have this kind of database, or I mean like achievement regarding with our journals that already indexed in some reputable indexes and recording in more than 400 university library database. And then this is our partners. There are more than 300 partners actually that come from many countries, and we welcome to all of you. If your university would like to join in our global research ecosystem, and we can have many program collaboration together among or between all of these members partners. So we welcome to all of you to join, and then we can also helping or support you to have extended program as like mobility, student exchange or whatever. So we have many programs that we can offer to all of you regarding with how to extend the collaboration among or between institution in our global partners. And then please also join in our web community platforms. This is the way how we can contact each other or connect each other by having a lot of programs. I mean, like we will updating our informations regarding with our program because every month we have a lot of upcoming program. It can come from the conference, it can come from the Research Synergy Institute, or it can come from our Research Synergy Prize. So please don't miss the information and join in our web community platform. It's called Global Research Ecosystem. Please join, and you can just open this platform, and then after that you can join, and then you can have a lot of information regarding with our upcoming program. And then this is the last for our slide. And thank you so much for being with us today. And we welcome to all of you to our big family, to our more than 45,000 scholars that already being our members. And please get in touch with our Research Synergy team. Thank you so much. And come back to Miss Kania. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hendrati, for your welcome. Okay, so we are moving on to the next agenda. We need to capture this beautiful moment with eager photo together among participants, speaker, and moderator. So kindly please to open your Zoom camera, then we will take a picture together. Okay, let me see. We have two windows here. I will start to screen capturing the first window and then moving on to the next window in the screen. Okay, so is there any one of you wants to open your camera and take pictures together? Okay, maybe we can wait for a second. Okay, maybe that's all. Okay, I will start to count 1, 2, 3 and capture the screen. Okay. I will start to count. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Once again, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you for the smiles and wonderful energy for today's webinar. Okay, today we are honored to have Emma Smith as an associate publisher at F1000Research with us, who will be sharing their knowledge about introduction to F1000Research and Research Synergy Foundation Gateway. So before we begin this insightful session with our speakers, please allow me to briefly introduce their profile first. Emma Smith is an associate publisher at F1000Research. They have worked in open access publishing for over 7 years, advocating for transforming the peer review system towards a more open and transparent process. Emma regularly conducts webinars to raise awareness of F1000's publication model across several platforms, including F1000Research and Open Research Europe. Okay, now we will move on to the main session of today's webinar. It is my great pleasure to hand over the session to our respected moderator, Mrs. Santi Rahmawati, founder and COO of Research Synergy Foundation. So before we are continue, allow me to read her profile first. Santi Rahmawati is the founder and COO of the Research Synergy Foundation and actively engaged with scholars worldwide to strengthen the global research ecosystem. Santi holds a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Universitas Indonesia and a Master of Science in Management from Institut Teknologi Bandung, and currently serves as a Gateway Advisor for F1000Research RSF Gateway, Scopus Q1 and Q2, as well as an editor, reviewer, and author of various reputable international journals. With the combination of engineering and management science educational background, she has built the optimum workflow for scholars to contribute more to the society and humanities. So thank you, Mrs. Santi, for being with us today. From now onwards, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Kanya, for bridging before our sessions to the main session with Emma. How are you, Emma? Okay, we cannot hear your voice.
I pushed the wrong button on my microphone.
All right.
Apologies, everyone.
It's okay.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to see so many faces here. Thank you again so much for coordinating this opportunity.
All right. So, Emma, so without further ado, we are really looking forward to what is the topic and also the material that you are going to share with all of us today. So now is the time is yours, Emma. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Just confirming everyone can see my slides.
All right. Yes.
Perfect. So today I'll be talking with you about how you could publish using F1000 Research and the RSF Gateway that we have in collaboration, which Hendrati kindly walked through as part of her welcome talk as well. So we'll first discuss a little bit about open research in general, and then move on to F1000 research specifically, what it is that we do and how we support open research practice. And then I'll talk to you about the RSF Gateway, so how you would go about publishing with F1000 research in the RSF Gateway, and along with various hints, tips, tricks in order to ensure that your article does go from from submission all the way through to indexation with as smoothly as possible. I'll then give you a bit of an overview of just a little wrap up and share my contact details. If at any point you've got any questions, do feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions there as well. So firstly, what is open research? This is a term which generally describes how research is performed and how knowledge is shared with the underlying principle that everything should be as open as it is possible to make it. So this includes things that most people will be familiar around open access, which allows for those final research outputs to be shared immediately, permanently, and freely for other scholars in the research area, making research more visible, more accessible, and easier to incorporate and down the line with by other researchers. But it's also wider practices than that. So things like offering a really diverse array of article types. So not just that final research article output at the end, but all of the stages running up to that, sharing slides and posters that you may have presented at various conferences, sharing study protocols as you're developing and designing your study, sharing new methodological innovations and things like that. It's also around ensuring that data is available for everyone to access, use, and share, so allowing for increased reproducibility of the work and improving trust in research. And then the peer review process, having that accessible as well, because currently, as I'm sure most of you are aware, you sort of look at a research paper and it's a bit of a black box as to how that paper got published in that journal, for what reasons, why. And so allowing that peer review process to be open, sharing who's reviewed the manuscript, what they said about the manuscript, how authors and editors responded, really helps support the integrity of the research process and brings transparency to what is currently quite an untransparent, quite an obscure part of the publishing process. So F1000Research, we are a open research publishing platform. We are a scholarly publishing platform which offers all research to be published in an open access way. We have open data requirements, and every article that is published on F1000Research has this sort of transparent peer review process attached to it, and we offer that really diverse array of article types. F1000 also operates on a sound science principle, so we don't have editors saying, sorry, it's not novel enough for us, or we don't think there's enough of an impact here. The principle of F1000Research is that if you have done good research that is ethical and you've provided the necessary details in accordance with publishing ethics and research integrity, then your article can and should be published. We are also a broad scope publishing platform across all disciplines, from arts and humanities and social sciences all the way through to natural sciences, physical sciences and engineering. F1000 is owned by Taylor & Francis, so we're part of the wider Taylor & Francis ecosystem. And F1000Research is a signatory to DORA, which is an organisation that advocates for the responsible use of metrics, a move away from impact factor as a primary form of assessment of research, instead moving towards a system where your research is judged on its own merits and not the citation metrics of a particular journal. And currently F1000 is a Q1 and Q2 ranked journal across a number of different subjects. Moving on to that sort of diversity of article types that I mentioned, just so you can really see the scope of article types that we offer. We do offer reviews and systematic reviews as article types for researchers. We also offer things like study protocols, method articles, brief reports, so if you have something shorter that you would like to share. Software tool articles, so if you're developing a piece of software that is openly available for people to use, then you can share the article outlining what this piece of software is, how it's going to benefit the field, and things like that. We also offer, for later in the process, research articles, opinion articles, open letters, which are more around policy papers and white papers, and data notes. So where you have shared a data set, the data note article type allows you to go into a lot more detail than you typically can get into in a repository of files, explaining the rationale behind why you've collected this data set and what alternative uses you can foresee and what sort of questions it might be able to answer by other people. We also have documents as an article type. So these are article types that are not peer reviewed, but these are available for you to share, for example, posters and slides and conference proceedings where you have presented research somewhere, but it isn't yet in that full research paper format. And now, most importantly of all, the RSF Gateway on F1000Research. This is a dedicated space for research coming from RSF. It is incredibly broad scope across all of the things that Hendrati was mentioning the RSF works on in its many different forms. And we offer all of these article types on the RSF Gateway. To be eligible for the RSF Gateway, you must have undergone some form of publication preparation via one of the RSF services, and you can see that link in the slide there that will take you directly to the RSF Gateway in case you would like more information about the Gateway or to browse other publications that are already on there. So I've mentioned briefly that F1000 operates on open research principles and we have this transparent publication model. But what is it and what makes it different from the typical publishing process? So some of you may have already experienced publishing, others of you may not. So I'll just quickly run through what a typical process looks like. But again, this can vary based on journal, field, discipline, but this is just broad strokes. So firstly, you have your research paper, you've got it in hand, you've done all of your hard work and you are ready to submit to a journal. You do so, and then a desk editor who is reading your work will make a decision about whether or not they think your article suits the journal you submitted to. And sometimes this can lead to rejection, in which case you then need to submit your paper to a different journal. At some point, a desk editor will say, I think this warrants peer review, and your article will be sent to external peer reviewers who will provide their comments to the desk editor. The desk editor will read those comments, and then they may again decide that this article is not suitable for this particular journal in its current form, and you may need to revise your article and then submit again and go through the process again. Or they may ask for further revisions. That revised article will then be sent for peer review again, who will give comments to the desk editor, who may ask for further revisions, and eventually your article will hopefully be accepted at a journal. On average, this process is around 6 to 8 months. It's about the same amount of time as it takes to get the Mars rover on Mars. So it's quite a long period of time, and that's from the point in time where you've decided that your paper is ready to see the light of day. And in addition, all of this is rather a lot of a black box. All that people will see is this sort of final research paper. The F1000 model operates quite differently from this. So we offer all of the same bits of the model, the things like peer review and indexing and publication that really help make a research paper what it is, and strengthen the core aspects of that paper, but do so in a more transparent and more open way. So I'll break down this chart step by step. So first is article submission. So we have a one-page submission form on F1000Research, and this is where you provide all of your files and everything like that. Our editorial team will then perform a series of in-depth checks around whether the article has met our journal policies, whether you've provided your data in a way that is open and secure. If you have, when you have provided ethical information, whether you've provided the correct reporting standards and things like that. So our editorial team will perform these comprehensive checks, and we'll let you know if there's any information that's missing, or if there's anything that any further revisions that you need to provide. Once you've worked with our editorial team to resolve any issues, the article will then be published on F1000Research. The article is fully typeset and published with a DOI, so it can immediately be viewed and cited. And at this stage, it is indexed in Google Scholar, so people can begin searching for your article as soon as you have sort of passed those initial editorial checks. This really allows your research to be seen a lot more quickly than in that typical process where no one could view it until right at the end of the process. Then, once it's published on F1000Research, your article is peer reviewed. So this is when we start the peer review process. Expert reviewers are selected by our in-house team. The reviewers selected are qualified, expert, and impartial, meaning they have a PhD or equivalent in the subject area, that they have published in the field recently, and that they don't have any conflicts of interest. You're not at the same institution, you don't hold a grant together, things like that. As authors, you are more than welcome at any time to suggest potential reviewers for your manuscript, and we do really appreciate those suggestions. Our team will then just make sure that the suggestions you've provided meet our qualified, expert, and impartial criteria before we invite them. Once we receive those reviewer reports, our editorial team will check those reports, ensure that they are appropriate and in-depth enough to publish. And assuming that they are, which most of them are, then the reports will be published alongside the reviewer's name, institution, any conflicts of interest that they have declared, and things like that. As authors, we recommend that once you receive at least 2 peer reviews, that is when you can begin the revision process. So you can revise your article, addressing the reviewer's comments as appropriate, and then a new version of your article will be published. That version is linked to the very first version that you published, but all versions remain online so that the entire process from start to finish is transparent. And along with your revised article, your response to the reviewers is published as well. So any reader can see what it was that you updated about the manuscript and how you address the reviewers' concerns. From there, we'll move to indexing once your article has passed peer review. So your article has to pass peer review in order to be indexed, but we are indexed in a wide number of different bibliographic databases, including the Directory of Open Access Journals, Scopus, PubMed, Europe PubMed Central. There is an indexation page, I think, on the website that I can link in the chat, which goes through a full list of every bibliographic database that we are indexed in. So I briefly mentioned passing peer review, but you'll notice at no point in there did I mention there was an editor. So there's no editor accepting or rejecting articles at any point of this process. Instead, we rely on the reviewers' comments, and specifically the reviewers' evaluations all provide statuses with their report on your article. So the three statuses they can select from are approved, approved with reservations, and not approved. So approved is when the reviewer believes that the article is fundamentally sound and appropriate to be indexed. There may be some very minor suggestions, potentially around, some minor grammatical things in the article. But other than that, there's nothing that would in any way sort of change the conclusions that are being drawn. Approved with reservations is a status which says that where the reviewer believes that the article is solid, that it has really good foundations, but there may be some additional work needed to strengthen or support the conclusions. For example, there was a significant part of the literature that may have been overlooked, or there may be some very minor additional control experiments needed, something along those lines. But that the conclusions themselves are solid, and these are revisions recommended just to strengthen the conclusions that are being drawn. And then the final status, not approved. Despite the scary red X, it is not a rejection of your article. This is more of a request for major revisions. So this may be things like needing a significant amount of additional control experiments to support the conclusions that are being drawn, or an additional approach to analysis that's needed to support the conclusions. The reviewers can and should update their statuses with the new version of your article. So in the example given here, version 1 of the article is listed on the bottom. It received 2 peer reviews. One was approved with reservations. The other one was not approved. So that version of the article did not pass peer review. The second version, listed at the top there, received 2 approved peer review statuses, and this is the version of the article that did pass peer review. So version 1 wasn't sent to Scopus, PubMed, etc., but version 2 was. The 2 ways you can pass peer review with these statuses is, as in this instance, receiving 2 approved peer review statuses, or 1 approved and 2 approved with reservations, as is a general consensus between the reviewers there, that the article has enough merits going for it. And then lastly, just to mention the indexation, I touched on the Directory of Open Access Journals, Scopus and PubMed, but we're also indexed by OpenAlex, TopFactor, Reaxys, Dimensions, and we also store the article for long-term preservation in places like clocks as well. So this is a very different approach, but why are we doing it, and why should you as authors do it? So there are a wide number of benefits of publishing your article using this sort of open peer review method. One is that your article, the review of your article becomes a lot more accountable because the reviewers are sharing their identities, and that allows for transparency of who it is that is reviewing your work and whether or not they have any conflicts of interest. It also helps to reduce or prevent bias in that the open reports allow for anybody to be able to read and examine what feedback it was that you received, and really ensure that sort of transparency in the peer review process. Similarly, that transparency helps to prevent some inconsistencies by ensuring that the identities of reviewers are known, the comments that they are providing are consistent across the different versions of your article, ensuring that there's not a random out of left field comment on version 2 or version 3, and sort of exploring the sort of quality of the articles, the reviews there. In addition, by having this model where you publish first, then peer review, this allows for a lot more time to for your article to be out there. It helps speed up the sharing of your research because your article will be on Google Scholar for the entire point of time where the peer review is happening, which is not the case in the peer review process. And one of the more significant factors around people being able to read your research, starting to cite your research, is whether or not it's had time to disseminate through the community. This also provides an additional incentive for reviewers to review the work, which hopefully leads to speedier peer review turnaround times, because by having the open identities, it allows researchers to claim credit for the work that they're doing in the peer review process, and therefore allows them to justify a little bit more spending their time on the peer review process. It also provides important contextual information. So where the research and the reports are made available, it means that in that cycle where even after peer review, the desk editor may reject your paper and then no one sees those peer review reports, having everything open and transparent allows everyone to utilize those reports and means that the time that you and the reviewers spend on the revisions is made available to everyone and isn't wasted and kept sort of in the back end of a journal system somewhere, never to see the light of day. So that's sort of the process as a whole. I'll now describe some hints and tips about the different stages of peer review, of the submission, publication, and peer review process that will hopefully help you get your article from submission to passing peer review smoothly. So in terms of preparing your article, preparing yourself to submit to the RSF Gateway on F1000Research, first of all, you will need to receive a recommendation from RSF. So you will go through whatever coaching programs that you have gone through, and then you will receive a thumbs up from the RSF team about how great your paper is. From there, you will need to choose your article type from that large list of article types that I listed earlier in the webinar. We also highly recommend that you review our article guidelines and journal policies. These are all of the pieces of information you need to include in your article, relevant pieces of ethics information that you need to include, any reporting standards that you need to provide will all be listed as things that you will need to do in these two places. You will also need to prepare and share your research data. So as I mentioned, F1000Research has an open data policy where you should make as much of your data available as open as possible and as securely as is necessary. We have a lot of information on our website about that, but I'm happy to answer a couple of questions as well if you have any. And I'll go in a bit more detail in the next slide about what preparing data looks like. And then you'll need to prepare evidence of ethical approvals you received and what the consent process was for if you're conducting research in humans, for example. So what are research data? These are any data that sort of is used to underpin your study. So this could be qualitative or quantitative data, it could be focus interviews or survey data or experimental outputs. It could also be the input of your research process if you're reanalyzing somebody else's data set, or you are doing archival research, or it could be the output of the research process as well, the data that you collect. And it can vary in format based on study design and discipline. There are certain limited exceptions where you may not be able to share the data. For example, if you're working with human subjects data, in those cases, and we do have them listed again in that data guidelines page, then do reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to our editorial team, and we'll happily provide a bit of guidance as to what we would expect in those circumstances. For the data that you can share, you will need to deposit your data into a suitable repository. A suitable repository is one that provides a permanent identifier for your data set, so like a DOI. It is shared according to an open license, and it provides you with credit for that data set. You should also draft a data availability statement describing what the data is and where it is stored. So, for example, experimental data from study A in this research paper is available on name of repository, link to repository, for example. There are a really wide array of places that you can deposit data. So there are a number of repositories that are on the web for you to store and access data. It allows you to provide that additional context as well so that the data can be reused. There are, as I say, a number of different repositories that you can use. Some are free, some are not. Do feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns or issues, and I'd be happy to go through some potential options for you. So that's before submission. Now we're getting to the editorial checks stage. So as I mentioned, there are a number of different checks that are performed on the research article or other format of article before we publish. So this is to ensure that we're adhering to high and rigorous standards of the research without saying it has to be novel or it has to be the most impactful piece of research you've ever seen in your life. We do accept and consider, for example, negative studies, null studies, confirmatory studies. Those are all important and valid parts of the research ecosystem as well. What the acceptance criteria are broadly that your article should be original. You shouldn't have submitted it to another journal. It shouldn't be under consideration at another journal. It shouldn't have been published at another journal. F1000Research as a platform, although we operate differently in terms of the process, the output that you get is akin to a journal article. And so you should think of sort of the standard of the research that you're sending and what it is that you're looking to achieve to be akin to that sort of journal process. The author information should all be provided as well. So every author should be listed. It should match between the article file and the submission form, making sure that if there are any conflicts of interest, that these have been declared, and making sure that every author has received appropriate credit for their contributions to the article in accordance with the credit taxonomy of author contributions. We check to ensure that the article is in English language and that it is a scholarly article, that it is in scope, and that the article itself is of a high standard of English. We ask that the reporting guidelines that are necessary for certain article types are provided. So if you have a clinical trial, that you are providing the relevant Prisma workflows or anything like that, that you've got your data availability statement that we just went through in a bit of detail, and that where you have required ethical approval, for example, from an institutional review board or something like that, that all of the information has been provided about what ethical approvals you received and what consent processes you went through. So some things just to note is that self-plagiarism is a thing, and that software can detect that. So just do be cautious if you're incorporating aspects of text that you have published previously. Make sure that you're not copying and pasting from a previous publication that you've written. One important thing to note is that this process is for complete papers. So ensure that you have finalized everything. Obviously, that will mostly be done through the RSF approvals process that you'll have gone through before submitting. As I say, always include and acknowledge all authors according to credit, and ensure that you are keeping them updated about the article, any revisions that are happening, and ensure that everyone understands the weird and wonderful process that is the F1000 research process. Mention any funding sources you have and any ethical or board approvals that you sought. And if you're using third-party material, for example, if you've previously published an article and you would like to reuse a figure from that article, you may need to get permission from that particular journal. So just make sure that if you are reusing materials that you have permission to do so. And once an article has been accepted, F1000 Research does charge an article processing charge. There are 3 different prices according to the amount of editorial time, excuse me, the amount of editorial time and effort involved. It's worth also emphasizing that for submitting authors who have a primary affiliation in countries defined as low or low middle income countries, then there is an automatic discount that is applied. This list of countries changes occasionally, so do check out our article processing charges page for more information and to check whether you are from one of the countries that will be eligible for this sort of automatic discount. Lastly, the peer review process and indexing. So the entire idea of F1000 Research's approach is to bring transparency to peer review. And it does this in sort of 3 main ways. Firstly is ensuring that reviewers provide their name and affiliation, which is published alongside the article, that any conflicts of interest that the reviewer has are openly declared, and this is published alongside their review as well. And reviewers can link their ORCID with their peer review report to really track the contributions that they're making through peer review. The open reports angle is around publishing the actual content of the peer review, and this also allows for things like co-reviewing. So should you be an early career researcher who is interested in peer reviewing, F1000 Research does offer sort of mentorship, so where a senior person in your lab gets the review invitation, you could potentially contribute to that peer review and be named as a co-reviewer with the consent of your senior research partner in there as well. And all reviews have a DOI and are so citable in their own right. And again, that status provides a sort of quick sort of rule of thumb of what the reviewer is thinking in their approved with reservations or not approved status. When you are responding to reviewer comments, it's occasionally easy to become disheartened because there is often a lot of constructive critique in there. It is nothing to be disheartened about. Every single paper that you see published has gone through this process. And these recommendations are things that the reviewer believes will strengthen your paper. It's worth, ensuring that you take a beat and consult your co-authors about what approach you want to take. And this is easier done by breaking down the reviewer's comments by category, for example, things in the introduction, changes to the methods, etc. And it may be that the peer reviewer has misunderstood something. This happens. We are operating in text formats asynchronously. So in that case, it may be that their comments are, you know, what they suggest as a potential solution may not be appropriate, but you can review the bit that they misunderstood and potentially address their comments by clarifying in text. Ensure that you're addressing every comment and keeping track of what you have amended and what you haven't, so that you can draft a full response to the peer reviewers. As ever, just double check that you're reading it to ensure that it is clear, polite, and professional, respectful, and addressing every comment. Your response to the reviewer's comments is also made public to keep that transparency open on both sides. And lastly, getting your paper indexed. So as I mentioned previously, articles are only indexed after they pass peer review, which requires either 2 approved peer review reports or 1 approved and 2 approved with reservations peer review reports. After the article passes peer review, it's indexed in Scopus, PubMed, and other bibliographic databases. Even after it passes peer review, you can still choose to update your article. So for example, if you passed peer review with the 1 approved, 2 approved with reservations peer review reports, you could continue to revise your article to potentially address those approved with reservations revision recommendations, if you believe that will strengthen the article. So, summary. The F1000 research approach is a sort of innovative approach that by partnering with the RSF, you get to benefit from the RSF coaching services in drafting your research. So you have that initial step up from their expertise. Should you choose to publish with F1000 Research, we publish more quickly than a lot of other journals because we publish first and then peer review your work. By having that diversity of article types, it allows you to share research outputs that you may not be able to share in other places. And it is always open so that anyone can read the research, incorporate the research, cite the research, and they can do that from the moment of publication. They don't need to wait for your peer review process to be completed. It's also transparent, so it's fully open, author-led publishing with the reviews and reviewers' names attached to encourage a much fairer process of publishing. So I think that was everything on my end. Thank you so much for listening to me. Do feel free to explore the RSF Gateway on f1000research.com/RSF. Do feel free to email me or book a call with me if you prefer a one-on-one chat at any point. And now I think I'll hand over to Santi for the moderation.
All right. Thank you so much, Emma, for giving the insight and also clear information about the F1000 research and, of course, the RSF Gateway itself. So actually, yes, we have received several questions from the participant. However, I'm going to read the question for you. And then for the rest of the audience who are not yet, perhaps if you still have any queries or what is it called? Questions that you want to clarify. So we have Emma here. So feel free to post your question in the Zoom chat box. All right, Emma. So the first question is actually regarding the scope of the F1000 research itself. So do the F1000 research platforms can accommodate the research which has like a basic science and also applied science that can be published in F1000 research? Emma, we cannot hear your voice, sorry.
I pushed the button on my microphone again. I need to stop doing that. Okay.
Never mind, now we can hear you clearly. Okay.
Scope. So yes, we can and do accept basic science and applied science. We are a broad scope interdisciplinary publishing platform, meaning that you could publish arts and humanities research, you can publish a piece of software that you're designing for an engineering project, you could publish mathematical proofs. The requirement that we have is that sort of sound science principle, that you're meeting your research integrity, ethical requirements, and that you're meeting sort of publication ethics standards, all of which are outlined in the article guidelines and the journal policies. Oh, now it's my turn to say you're muted, Santi. If it's not
I
one,
think
it's the
I think I
other.
follow you. my conscious. Okay. No worries. Yes, I think it's already answer the participants' questions, right? So no worries, because the broad of the scope that can be published in F1000 is diverse, right? Not only the scope, but also the type, as Emma already mentioned earlier. All right. Okay, Emma, and then we go to the next questions. It's related with the plagiarism. So how to be sure that the article isn't plagiarism? So perhaps not only answering that question, perhaps you want to add the way that F1000 do this plagiarism check. Yeah, and also the standard. Yeah.
Yes. So the standard is if you are copying and pasting like chunks of text, that's you shouldn't do that. Should definitely avoid doing that. I think there are a lot of different tools that we and other journals use that are basically run through the article and compare it to what has been published elsewhere. And in the event that there are issues, then we may choose to decline the publication and not publish in that sort of initial stage. I think the primary way of avoiding it is to write the paper yourself with your knowledge of the subject. You are all incredibly intelligent, competent people. So I think just back yourself when you are writing this, and for your article to be eligible to publish on F1000Research in the RSF Gateway, you will go through the coaching services, and the RSF team are incredible in ensuring that and helping you through that sort of initial drafting stage. So that should really help sort of clarify what your expectations should be there as well. So I think both of us are here to help on that front.
All right. So is there any standard, for example, like 15% of the plagiarism check, or 18 or 20, something like that?
No, it's very much assessed on a sort of case by case basis. So it's because there's a lot of variation in disciplines, approaches, and sometimes there may be a genuine need. For example, if you're doing a bunch of quotes from books for a literary analysis. So I think it's something to be aware of, be mindful of. And I think a thing that trips quite a lot of people up is that sort of idea of self-plagiarism. Like, because you've written it before, you sort of don't realize that having written and published it somewhere else before, you can actually be caught out in the sort of plagiarism checks. So just to ensure that what you're writing is original and like coming from yourself, I think is the sort of best way of ensuring that you're not gonna trip over that hurdle.
All right. Thank you, Emma. And yes, we receive more questions. And this is what the discussion points mean. So we are triggering so many of the participants. So feel free if you have any query of anything that you want to discuss or clarify. All right, we go to the next question, Emma. So this is related with the feedback from the reviewers. So how to improve, this is how to improve a paper after receiving a feedback from the reviewer in the case of F1000 research system. Yeah.
That's a great question. So I think one of the key things to note is that what we are doing, if you compare the sort of two slides that I had of like the traditional process and then our process, what we're doing is sort of removing that black box. So, or removing the orange box as it was using our branding. And so all of the stages are very similar, apart from the editors sort of saying no. But other than that, everything is very similar to the journal process. So what you would do in sort of responding to the reviewer feedback is the reviewers will generally structure their peer review report as a here's a brief summary of the article and what the authors intended. here's what they did well, and here are some things that I think could improve the paper. So the reviewer might suggest, they could suggest a really wide number of things. It could be going back and doing additional experiments. Sometimes you'll be able to do that and sometimes you won't. But there may be alternative ways of addressing that reviewer concern. So it's worth going over, like, okay, they said do additional experiments, but what was the reviewer trying to indicate that they felt was a bit lacking, or a bit of a gap that we could improve on? And maybe it's just that there's a particular part of your study where an additional control was needed, and you have access to that data from a previous experiment, and you can incorporate that previous data into the research work. Or they may not be familiar with all of the papers that you've published previously, and they bring up, like, what about this particular line of inquiry? But you've already done that in a different paper, or you're planning to do it in your next paper. And so you can say things like, thank you, name of reviewer, because we name our reviewers. So thank you, Professor Evans. Here, we appreciate, this angle, this suggested angle. We're actually have published that. Here's the citation. We've incorporated that citation into our article now. So there are a number of different approaches to it. I think where possible, the reviewer comments or the revisions requested are intended to sort of strengthen the article. The reviewer has identified a particular concern, and the approach is from you as authors is to identify what exactly that concern is, and to implement a way of addressing that using your expertise and your knowledge of your particular lab's processes and your resourcing, and things like that, because I appreciate there's oftentimes folks in very expansive labs with inordinate amounts of research funding are suggesting experiments, and you're like, well, I can't do that. I don't have access to insert supercomputer. So there may be other ways of addressing that concern. So that's, I think, goes back to that don't be disheartened comment. So because other reviewers don't know your research context, they don't know how exactly your lab works. It might be that you did have that expertise at one point and the researcher is a first author who's gone off on maternity leave, so there's a lot of different reasons, and I think the main approach is, how can I best address this concern with the tools available to me to improve this manuscript? I would also want to highlight as well, F1000 Research is quite unique in the opportunity where you as authors can comment on the reviewer's report before you actually submit your revision. So if you do have any questions, if you are super unclear about something, then you can add a comment saying, requesting clarification. It's worth highlighting that all of these comments are public and open, so retain that sort of professional conduct as well as you can, and you can also outline your response as a sort of preliminary response. So, like, Professor Evans, thank you for X, Y, and Z suggestions. We're going to do X. We can't do Y for this reason, but we're thinking of this alternative. And Z, we weren't quite clear on. Can you please provide additional clarification about what exactly Z is in these revisions? So that's an option that is pretty unique for F1000 Research.
Yeah. So, and also perhaps another things that the participants should know, that they can comment. So once you publish that, you can enter your account and then you can respond to the reviewer's comment in your dashboard, right? It could be either submitting a new file or new versions, and also it could be also just commenting on the reviewer response. And Emma, so allow me also to share a little bit, share screen. So in order for the participants to get more clear information about this, and perhaps they can review on for the next process. So if you see this screen, so once you open the Research Synergy Foundation Gateway, so there's an information that Emma already mentioned earlier, and then you can go to the browse, and then there will be the articles and documents that already, and also even a poster that already published in our gateway. And what Emma explanations before is you may see this, for example, I'm just randomly picking, just randomly picking, for example, like this one. So you can see here is the peer review process going on. So you can see who are the reviewer, and then you can also see the track record of the scholars that is reviewing your articles. So just to make sure that these scholars is actually in line with your research topic or research interest. And then you can see, for example, like read in here, for example, like Emma said that the reviewer or the Prof Evan, we can name it. And then there is also a comment, for example, like this, and then also the authors, and the authors can make a comment. I can make a comment or can make the answer to the response of the reviewers, right? And here, sorry, this is the response of the author, right, Emma? Like for it, like this
Yes,
example, yeah, thank you, etc., etc. And then they gave a few explanation and etc. So after that, I think the F1000 team also will give the notifications also to the reviewer to respond to the author's response. So this actually one of the integrity that Emma already said in advance, and also to show the accountability of the F1000 research itself, that it is open and it can be, what's it called, Emma? It can be reliable, we can say like that, right? Because we can trace back who are the persons. So when we are submitting to the other typical journals, it's like a black box, like you say, or the orange box, the orange box that you say that we don't know actually who are the reviewer. And then, yeah, we are just, as the author, actually, we are just waiting, sometimes desperately waiting the email from the journals. But it not happens in the F1000. So the editor of the F1000 is happy to assist and also help you, and also wish also that you can have a smooth and also faster publications, right? And that's actually another another information that I want to add. So if you confused on how to see that, so you can just browse it in our gateway, and then you can check on the browse, and then you can just pick another or any of the article that is already published in our gateway. And currently we have 205 articles, which is already published in our gateway, perhaps the highest in F1000, right? So perhaps in 205.
It's quite a lot, yes.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, exactly. So feel free to explore the gateway also, so to know better about the process and everything. All right. So Emma, I'm going to address another questions. Okay, so the questions is, I'm not sure whether it is a statement or a questions. However, I'm going to read it for you. Okay, so every manuscript submitted in F1000 research must be published, whether it is question mark or statement, because there is no sign for that. So perhaps you can confirm about this.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the at F1000, we don't publish everything that is submitted to us. We have that sort of initial checks stage where we are going through, like we've just discussed, like the sort of plagiarism or originality checks. We're going through, checking that author details have been provided correctly, that you've got your ethical approvals and have outlined that where it needs to be outlined. If you're reporting on a clinical trial, for example, that you've registered that clinical trial, you've provided that information. And so that you have made your data available. That's another big sort of tripping point that we find that authors potentially weren't expecting. And so in cases where articles don't meet our journal policies, haven't or can't or haven't adhered to our data availability requirements, or if there are any other issues that crop up according to those journal policies and article guidelines that we end up not being able to resolve with you, in those cases, we would decline to publish that particular article. So there are, we do have standards to maintain that sort of quality of publication, but the quality of publication is around like have you provided enough information about your methods? Have you conducted your experiments in an ethical way? Are we meeting sort of requirements of research integrity and publication standards? So that is the bar you're having to meet. Whereas in a traditional journal process, typically it's a desk editor who's judging for impact, and then you do all the review process, and then right at the end they're like, oh, by the way, you haven't got X, Y, and Z information in the article file. And so by front loading that, ensuring that you've got all of the pieces of information you need before publication, we can have this sound science approach where we can be reasonably sure that everything that we are publishing has met these sort of rigorous publication ethics standards, while not limiting you in terms of what it is that you want to publish. For example, if you're doing a series of replication studies, like you're trying to replicate somebody else's research or a different study, that's really important research. There's a huge replicability crisis across a broad swathe of subjects. And yet it is very, very hard to publish replication studies or reproducibility studies because it's not original. And so F1000 Research, by having this sort of sound science approach, will hopefully allow for cases where if you are sharing confirmatory results, or if you've got null findings or negative findings, those are just as important, right? Because the file draw problem is huge when you're looking especially at sort of, medical and clinical things, but across broad swathe of subjects, it's really important to have access to, hey, we know this doesn't work. We've tried it a bunch of times, but no one can get that published. And so F1000 Research also offers like that kind of solution as well. So that's the sort of clarification. We don't publish everything, but what we do publish has met publication ethics, research integrity, and sort of journal policies that are all outlined clearly on our website and in our article guidelines. And in cases where it is just we're missing a piece of information, our editorial team will work with you beforehand to say, hey, you've not got X, you've not got Y, and things like that. And that sort of helps to address those issues and ensure that we're not rejecting papers because you forgot to include a piece of information, but that where research hasn't necessarily received ethical approval before doing the experiments, we can't publish that. So it sort of strikes that balance, we think, between ensuring the quality and integrity of the research that we're publishing, and also ensuring that you as authors have control over what it is that you're publishing and when you're publishing it.
Yeah, so it's already clarified that there are scientific process, and particularly the editorial requirements and also the editorial policy that every author must be addressed before the publications, right? And whatever the type is, because F1000 has a different range of type of our research work can be published there. So, and also every type also has a different policy or different requirements. So you may also see the information, the detailed information on the F1000 Research website, because one of the benefits that I think it's really useful, but at the same time, Emma, authors are feeling overwhelmed with all the details.
Yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed with all the detail mentioned in the website. But that's a good side, actually, once you as the author wants to take time to read all of the information which is stated in the F1000 Research is really clear, even regarding how to provide your data, and then also, etc. They mentioned there even the the suggestions or the recommendations of the open repository that you can put your data set to the open repository. They also mentioned that. So at least if you want to spare your time to read the informations, or if you don't want to read that, just join the coaching from RSF. Right, Emma?
Yes, that is true. The RSF team are
exactly
great at being able to sort of help you pass bits of information, because I appreciate a lot of these are just like walls of text.
Exactly.
So the RSF team and F1000 are always here at hand. So if you've got any questions, do feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Thank you so much, Emma. And then we go to the next question, Emma. No worries, still have the time. Okay, the next question is regarding the quartile. Perhaps before goes to the quartile, Emma, perhaps you can clarify once again, because since F1000 Research is open research publishing platforms, which is different with the other typical journals, perhaps you want to clarify it again, this type, and also with the common journal, because some of our members also, before they joined our coaching, I mean, like just asking us and everything. So they still confused whether the F1000 Research is a journal or what, because there are so many gateway and etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the way to think about F1000 Research is that we offer what a journal offers in terms of the peer review process, those editorial checks, and indexing, getting your paper like into Scopus, into PubMed. We offer what a journal offers. We just do so in a way that is fully open, fully transparent, and allows you to share your research in a way that is much more on your timeline, as opposed to on the editor and the reviewer's timeline, with the editors and reviewers having sort of so much control over whether or not your paper actually makes it to see the light of day. So I think that's the way of thinking about F1000 Research. So in terms of considering what you would want to send, consider it in the light of a journal. Would you want F1000 Research as like attached to this particular paper, or are you wedded to seeing it in another journal first? So I think that would be the way of looking at it. Excuse me, I've got a cough. But in terms of sort of where it is that we are indexed, we are indexed in Scopus and in PubMed. I think a distinction that is sort of different for F1000 Research at the moment versus other journals is that we are not indexed by Web of Science, so we don't have an impact factor. The reason for that is complex and multivariate. It's in part related to sort of the people who own Web of Science. They don't really know how to handle post-publication peer review. And also that we are a signatory to DORA. So we do want to enable and create a world where you're not relying on a journal's citation metrics for you getting a job or you getting tenure, because that's not about your research. It's about the title attached to your paper. And so we want to move to a world where your work is judged on its own merits and not, whether or not Nature aggregate got a sort of high number of citations on their papers over the past couple of years. So that is sort of a distinction that is worth bearing in mind, because I also appreciate that while we want to move to that world, there are some places that do still rely on you having an impact factor in order to receive tenure or to get the promotion. So that's just a factor to consider when you're picking a journal, and I'm sure the RSF team, as you're going through the coaching, will be able to help and provide guidance with some of those sort of considerations around what a suitable venue might look like for your research and your particular context.
All right. So now after that, I'm going to read the next questions. Yep. It's related with the quartile. Perhaps if you talk about the quartile, it's related with the SIMAGO, Emma, with the SIMAGO. Yes. And then it's actually two questions comes in one. First is regarding the quartile. And then the next one is regarding the time it takes for publication. Perhaps if you can share the time each phase in the F1000 model, it will be great. Yeah.
Yes. So those are great questions. So in terms of the quartile of the journal, what we're talking about there is SciMago uses Scopus as the basis of their quartile ranking. So every time I say it's indexed in Scopus, what I mean to say is we're eligible for quartile ranking. We are currently mostly, I think, a Q1 and Q2 journal. There's one subject area where we slightly dipped into Q3, but we're mostly Q1 and Q2. So if you check out your particular sort of discipline, I think arts and humanities is Q1, and then a number of others like social sciences, immunology, I think, is Q2. So we are reasonably well ranked within that sort of Scopus, the SCImago quartile indexing sort of angle of things, which again, it goes to the sort of impact factor side of things. So not an impact factor, we are Q quartile ranked because we are indexed by Scopus. In terms of the time to publication, so in a typical journal, they just go submission to acceptance because that is, or submission to publication, because it's all one big black box. For us, we break it down into 3 particular stages. So the first is submission to publication, because we publish first, and that is a measure of time of how quickly we're able to check your article, how quickly you can do the revisions, where there are changes needed or additional information needs to be provided, and for production to typeset the article. The second stage is that sort of first round of peer review. So from the moment that it is published until you receive at least 2 peer review reports. And then there is the third stage, which is how long it takes you to pass peer review. And we measure that from publication to when you receive either 2 approved peer review reports or 1 approved, 2 approved with reservations peer review reports. So that submission to publication timeline. Our editorial team will normally be in touch with you within around a week. So it's a very fast response to let you know what you need to change about the article, what revisions are needed, have you forgotten your ethical information, do you not have enough information about your data availability statement, have you provided your figure files separately, little things like that. So that sort of initial email will reach you within about a week. We emailed the submitting author, so it should be the submitting author who's keeping an eye on their inbox. Really double check you're getting that email address right. If you haven't heard from us within about a couple of weeks, do email us, reach out to me. I'm happy to have a look and make sure there wasn't a typo in your email address or something like that. So yeah, that's the sort of timeline that you're looking at for that first email. Working with authors to resolve any sort of outstanding issues, and that sort of including the production timelines where they typeset everything and send you the proofs and you check the proofs. The sort of full submission to publication timeline is between 6 and 8 weeks on average. Obviously, you guys have the benefit of this webinar and the RSF team and having read through all of our policies. So hopefully you guys will be able to make it through that sort of revision stage much quicker. So if you were to go through flying colours, no changes needed, we could turn your paper around in around 3 weeks. So the bulk of the time actually is working with authors to resolve data issues and things like that. So hopefully, because you guys have had this webinar and hopefully found it useful, you will have far fewer of those issues to come across, and so hopefully it will be faster for you guys.
Yes.
Moving on to the second stage, publication to 2 peer review reports. It depends on how quickly we are able to source reviewers and whether they accept to review the article. But on average, we're seeing sort of around 6 weeks from when the article is published to when you receive at least 2 peer reviews. And then a lot of the time from publication to when your article passes peer review is authors doing revisions. So that's sort of a bit out of our hands. But in general, we are seeing publication to passing peer review taking about 4 months. So those are the sort of stages. And obviously submission to passing peer review also includes the time submission to receiving 2 peer reviews. So it's not an additional 4 months on top of the sort of time to peer review. That's sort of all smushed in together. Hopefully that helped.
And after we pass the peer review, and how many times or what it takes to make our paper to be included in the Scopus databases after we pass the open peer review?
That's a great question as well. So that should be automated and you should see it really quite quickly, within a week or two. Like it is a very quick automated process. If it is longer than that, do feel free to reach out. There's very occasionally like reviewers will do something weird in their peer reviews in like the back end, and it causes issues for us in like the XML very occasionally. So, but yeah, it should arrive in the indexing quite quickly. And if it doesn't, just give me a shout and I'll say, hey, production, what's going on? And we can figure it out from there.
All right. Since we have Emma here, so Emma also will help us. All right, Emma. So actually, another questions, I put it in the last questions because it is also perhaps another query from other participants. So this is not related with our topics, but our participant is interesting to know, where are you from? So where am I from?
I am from the UK. I'm currently based in Cambridge, but I grew up in the north of England, which is why I have short vowels and drop my middle T's when I say pretty. So yes, that is the where I'm from. I'm from the UK.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Emma. So to all of the participants, thank you so much for your active participations. We just wrap up our discussion session sharply, Emma. Good job for all of us. At 4:35, we already finished our discussion. And then once again, thank you so much for your active participations in the Zoom chat box. And if you still have other questions, just let us know. And also Emma also already dropped and also informed her email at the slides previously. And then since this webinar is also live streaming on our YouTube, Emma, so you must subscribe, yeah, and follow. To other participants also, you can subscribe our YouTube channel, Research Energy Foundations, to get the update. And if you want to see the recording of this webinar today and also the rest of the previous activity that we already done, so feel free also to check on our YouTube channels. All right, Emma, thank you so much for your time. And then I think we should give back again the time to Kania. Thank you so much, Emma, and all of the participants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to Emma Smith for the truly inspiring session and for sharing such a valuable insight with us. And also a special thank you as well to Santi Rahmawati for the wonderful moderation throughout the session. Okay, so now we would like to give the token of appreciation to our speakers, Emma Smith. Please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Hendrati Dwi Mulyaningsih, founder and CEO of Research Energy Foundation, to give a token of appreciation and directly continue to deliver the closing remarks for today's webinars. So from now onwards, Dr. Hendrati, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kania, for the time. And also thank you so much for Emma for having a lot of insight regarding with F1000Research, and also Ms. Santi that make this webinar become cheer up like that. And also I know that F1000Research is not all of the scholars maybe understand regarding behind the publications and etc. And it is like especially in ASEAN country, it is like still a new things that they should know. And this kind of webinar is really useful to all of us. And I'm sure that many questions that still not answered yet, and it's mean that they are still curious and also excited to know more and better regarding with F1000Research. And we do hope that maybe we will have next or part 2 of the webinar, and we can discuss later maybe because I can see that the enthusiasm of the participants, and also we will make it broader in our members. And then we do hope that it can be like many participants or many members in our ecosystem will be more confident to publish, or more having it's like it is encouraged to encourage them to publish in this F1000Research. And thank you so much for the time, and we do hope we can see you again in the future. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Greatly appreciated.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hendrati, for the closing speech, and thank you so much for Emma's speech. Okay, so moving on to the next agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, want to prepare your manuscript for publication in a Scopus indexed platform? Join the scientific and academic writing coaching clinic F1000 Research, Scopus Key 1 and Key 2 open research publishing platform, a 2-week intensive program designed to help researchers to refine their manuscript from draft to submission ready. Participants will receive structured draft review, mentoring and assistance from the RSC team, and guidance for submission to F1000 Research. Scan the QR code to register and take the next step towards successful international publication. And we also understand that even strong manuscripts often raise concerns before submission, particularly regarding grammar, academic writing style, and consistency, which can significantly influence reviewers' evaluation. To support your publication journey, we are pleased to offer the Proofreading Service Premium by Research Synergy Institute, designed to help refine your manuscripts into a more professional, clear, and publication-ready paper. The service is fully secure as we collaborate with Enago Trinka, a trusted international partner certified with ISO for Information Security Management System and ISO for Quality Management System, ensuring both the confidentiality of your manuscript and the highest quality standards in the proofreading process. If you are interested in this special offer, please simply scan the barcode displayed on your screen for more information and direct registration. And we also have an exciting upcoming program for you. We would like to invite you to join our international webinar as Expert 30, Research Strategies in Quantitative Studies, Design, Instruments, and Analysis. This webinar is designed for those who want to strengthen their understanding of quantitative research, from selecting the appropriate research, designing and developing research instruments to conducting systematic and reliable data analysis. So if you are interested in joining this webinar, please feel free to scan the QR code shown in the screen. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, before we close today's session, we kindly ask you to take a few minutes to fill out our feedback form. You can easily access the form by scanning the barcode displayed on the screen right now. For your convenience, the committee has also shared the link in the Zoom chat box. Your feedback is essential to us as it will help us improve the quality of our future programs. So thank you very much for your time and valuable input. Okay, so we have come to the end of the webinar as Expert 38 F1000 Research Publishing, an introduction to F1000 Research and Research Synergy Foundation Gateway. On behalf of the organizer, Research Synergy Institute, Research Synergy Foundation, and official collaborated with F1000 Research, we would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed speaker for sharing your expertise and knowledge with us today. And we hope that this webinar has provided you with valuable insight regarding F1000 Research and also Research Synergy Foundation Gateway. We also want to express our gratitude to all the participants for your active engagement and insightful questions during the Q&A session. And we encourage you to continue learning and exploring new knowledge and researches to enhance your expertise. If you have any further questions or feedback, please do not hesitate to contact us. And once again, thank you to our speaker and to all our participants for making this webinar a success. We look forward to seeing you all again in our future webinars. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Emma.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you so much.